On the agenda tonight, guitarist Mike Dawes and flautist Karmen Gould are going to be joining me on a day off from Justin Hayward's UK tour. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So it's great that tonight I can be joined by Mike and Karmen to talk about all things music, about Justin Hayward playing live, guitar techniques, flute techniques as well. So we will jump into it and let's get them up on screen.
So what will you bring to this company?
I don't know. We're gonna find out. Hi.
Hey.
Hello. How are you doing?
We're great. Oh my god, Back to the Future. I love it.
Nice.
Yes, indeed. I was about to hear what you were about to bring to the company. I think that's what Mike was going to ask.
Yeah, I was just saying this is like a job interview because we're in this like ridiculously beige corporate hotel chair situation.
Yeah.
It's very Captain Kirk, this chair.
Yeah, and you got a decent amount of recline available to you as well.
Oh, dude, like it's almost a full 180,
Yeah, you
full
gotta
90.
feel
Yeah, it's pretty wild. In fact, can we just do it like this?
Yeah, I
Let's
wish
not
I
do
had
that.
the same, but I don't. I'm just on a wooden chair. Anyway, how are you guys doing?
Great. Fantastic. We're on a day off. We're in London.
Just reclining in
We're
chairs.
reclining in chairs and
Reclining in chairs and existing in beige
beige.
rooms.
So,
Yeah.
really hectic schedule. How are things going out on the road?
Well, on this run, it's actually been so far so good because last tour we did with Justin was in the States in, what was it, like May, June? Something like that, May, June.
Yeah.
But it was like the tour where everything kind of went wrong.
Everything.
Oh,
Like everything. Like
Everything.
every-
If it could have gone wrong, it
I mean-
went wrong.
we both got COVID,
ooh.
so that sucked. So obviously everyone, I presume all of your viewers know what COVID is. But in the touring industry, COVID is basically like how to lose all your money on the road. This is like be forced to cancel a bazillion shows and stay in a hotel room for a bazillion days. What else happened on that tour?
Bus broke down.
Oh, the bus nearly killed us.
Karen cut her finger open.
Karen cut her finger off.
Or,
Well, it's like open/off. 3 crew members we swapped because they left, or
oh yeah.
there was that.
Yeah.
You weren't on the bus when it like lost the brakes.
No, I missed that fun.
Yeah, that was.
Interesting.
But this tour's
But
been
it was-
great. This tour's been great.
But even that tour was great too. Even when
Oh, yeah,
everything
yeah,
went
yeah.
wrong, it was great.
Yeah.
Like,
What I'd like to talk about with you two is because we've got, a mix of instruments here with guitar and flute. Obviously, people might not know, but Mike plays the guitar and Karmen plays flute. Karmen, on your YouTube videos, you've adapted it to take on effectively lead guitar solos. And I mean, pretty much anything. I'd just make a beeline for anything that's 80s and hard rock and Van Halen that I've seen
Best
and
stuff.
Europe as well, Final Countdown. I'd like to get from you how you approach that, and because I don't play the flute, kind of understanding the technicalities of how you turn a guitar solo into a flute solo and get it to sound the same technique wise.
yeah. Good question.
A long question.
A couple parts of that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, other people have asked me, like, how do I pick what guitar solos to do? And that is a combination of just listening to everything and then choosing, do I like it? Does it make me happy? Do I want to spend time on this and make a video out of it? Then is it melodic enough so that I can put it on the flute? Basically, like all that rhythmic stuff is really hard. It's just too rhythmic. I mean, a guitar can carry that, but if it's not, it's can be tricky to translate that to flute. So if it's melodic, then basically I can copy it. And if it's long enough, it's actually hard to find a guitar solo that is long enough. There's a small set of ones that in songs that are actually is like not longer than like that 20-30 seconds. And then on to the next part of the song.
Yeah, there's like one by Metallica has a massively long guitar solo at the end.
Yeah.
Which is like, lots of Metallica has just a lot of lead stuff in it,
Tons,
doesn't it?
right.
Like going through like lots of iconic lines.
Yeah, I keep going back to Metallica.
I like the bendy stuff that you do. like you can bend on the flute, which is pretty wild.
So getting into the technique part of things, so there's so much bending on guitar, and I'm so jealous because you guys can just like just bend a note. I don't even totally know how you guys do it, but on flute you have to roll in or roll out, and there's only so far you can go, about a half step or so, a little bit more if you're kind of you can give the vibe and fake it a little bit, that you're doing more than a half step, but maybe a whole step, I don't know.
We've always talked about, so when we sound check for these shows with Justin Hayward, I have my full acoustic guitar pedal board, which is kind of big, and then also an electric guitar rig as well. And we're always like, we need to find time to just like plug the flute into like a whammy pedal and distortions and like delays and stuff. And that's something we still never have time to do it, because as soon as we get there, it's like sound check. Right now we got to eat. Right now we got to do this. Now we got to warm up. Now we got to play. We never find the time. But we must do that. That would be so fun.
We're going to. Well, we have a plan.
We do have a plan. Yeah. There's a beautiful car park at this hotel, and we're going to try and go down and use the reverb of the underground car park at Heathrow Airport to make some cool like duet stuff. It'd be really fun.
Car parks and stairwells.
That's it. Stairwells are the best.
But not to go the technique thing, because people would judge me if I didn't say the different ways. So you can bend notes on the keys too, because there's holes in the actual keys. So just put that in there.
Really?
Yeah. So because it's like they're.
I mean, I know there's holes in the keys, but like you can bend with the keys.
Well, you can. Yeah, I mean you can bend the pitch, slide from one note to another. So without even putting it together, you got like holes. I don't know if you can see. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Backwards. So if you slide like from here and you slide off the hole, and then but you still have the key pressed down, but the actual hole is exposed, then it'll give you a quarter tone.
Okay.
You can like combine that with the rolling.
So you combine it with the rolling, and that's
wild.
But you can't obviously do that on every single note because all the notes are fingered differently. The whole thing together. But that's one of the tricks.
Why aren't there more rock and roll flute players? It's like Ian Anderson and you.
I love Ian Anderson.
Well,
Anyway,
Peter Gabriel, right?
Great. Yeah, that's true.
It's amazing to hear the details of how to do it, because on guitar you just push your finger down and bend. That's it. Breath support and all that kind of stuff, how much does that go into it? Like if you've got an extended phrase that you need to hold for a long amount of time, is there a different way that you approach that, really concentrate on taking in your air, maybe controlling your airflow and all those kind of things?
That's definitely a tricky spot when covering guitar solos, because you guys don't have to breathe. And you can go on and on, but it's the same thing of almost like covering violin parts and that. So even like Mozart, who wrote things for violin, and when we copy and play Mozart's music, and he's pretending we're violins, we have to actually just play through. So we have to fake it. So technique wise, lightening up how much air I'm using. So if I don't play as loud, I can last longer in a phrase, or just kind of trying to just sneak a breath in where it is least offensive and doesn't break up the line as much.
It's interesting how playing an instrument like the flute sounds really similar, breathing wise, to singing. That when you've got long phrases, you have to use less air, you've got to conserve your air, taking kind of cheeky breaths within phrases that people might not notice, that you try and make quiet so that it kind of sounds like you haven't taken a breath. Interesting for me, not playing the flute, to kind of find out how it all works. But then when we throw the spotlight over to Mike, we've got a way of playing that you do so well, which is combining so many different elements. What I mention on my channel quite a lot is that the right hand is the most underrated part of playing the guitar.
So glad you said that. That's like such a huge part of what I do, and so few people pick up on that. That's awesome. another thing is that the left hand, when you're learning all those like Ingve licks or whatever it is, all the fast stuff, it really translates so easily to like from electric to acoustic. Whereas the right hand is a completely different technique altogether. Yeah. So it's almost like, I guess, coming from an electric guitar background and then moving to an acoustic, the left hand you don't really think about at all. Like nothing. The only interesting thing about the left hand when you translate it to acoustic from electric is like, well, if you're using altered tunings, then obviously your whole freaking universe changes in terms of like the mapping of where you are. But being able to do things like bending and vibrato will change with a higher action or a thicker string gauge. But I'm trying to kind of make it as easy as possible. So I use super wimpy thin strings and a very, very low action. But yeah, the right hand is like a whole different thing. But as much as, I'm always trying to get as much out of the instrument as possible. One of the things that you can't really do is sustain. And with the exception of breath, that's why the flute goes so well with the guitar. One of the reasons it goes so well, because it kind of sits sonically so nicely, but it also can do those parts that the guitar can't. When you pick a guitar string, especially if it's an acoustic guitar and it's not covered in high gain, and feedback assisted sustain, it dies. It's transient and then kind of rolls off, and the flute can kind of cover that. And you don't have that strong attack on the flute as well. You don't have that big like bing. It's kind of just a nice, smooth kind of thing. It's a nice compliment for sure. But dude, I'm so glad you mentioned the right hand. That's like, yay, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. I try, but the thing about playing the style that you play, combining all of these elements, a lot of people will watch the videos and see you playing and have all these elements together as the final product, but then breaking it down into how you address each element that you want to put into there, especially with that right hand, finding the rhythmic parts you want to have in there, artificial harmonics, for example.
Well, first of all, so let's look at like arrangements. So like doing a cover song, which is something that we both do, right? Different takes on other tunes. The most important thing, I'm sure you'll agree, is like your ear. Like you have to be able to first of all pick out the individual instruments. Like take a Metallica song as a reference point, right? Okay, well, what's the bass doing? What's the guitar doing? What's the lead guitar doing? What's the vocal doing? What are the drums doing? You have to be able to physically start there. It's very hard on And Justice for All because there's like no bass, but like you can assume that there is a bass. Once you can do that, then on the guitar, what I do is I'd find a tuning that works with the key of the song. Or sometimes I'll like just change the key of the song because I can't find a tuning that works with the string gauges that I have. So an example of that is Jump is in C major. I did a version of Jump by Van Halen in D major because I wanted to do it in DAD, GAD tuning, in DAD-GAD tuning, because that's what my guitar's set up for. So I just transposed it. Once you have the key, then you should, in theory, have access to those bass notes in that major or minor scale. In that major or minor chord scale, you'll have access to the chord shapes, and because you're ditching the guitar pick and you're not limited to just one attacking device, you now have your thumb, index, middle, and ring. The pinky I rarely use; it's mainly for anchoring or muting. You should be able to perform the bass, the chords, and the melody. Now, the percussive element always comes last because it's the least important to the song. Right, the song is just the melody and harmony, right? That's it's like you're not really thinking about percussion when you're playing a flute solo. Yet a flute solo playing an iconic line is still the iconic line. You're not worried about Lars Ulrich so much as Kirk Hammett, perhaps. But the percussive techniques come from trial and error over time. So I call them like micro techniques. It's like the physical act of combining a note with a percussive element. So like instead of trying to hit the guitar like a bass drum, I'm thinking more like, okay, well, how can we hit the guitar like a bass drum whilst getting a bass note, whilst getting a chord? And then it's like, okay, well, I could hammer a chord at the same time as my thumb could pick a bass note. So if I move my wrist like this, then I get the bass note picked and the wrist hitting the wood of the guitar. So over time, that becomes instinctual, much like the first time you'd learn to bend with vibrato. It would be a technique that's hard at first, but then it just becomes like another word in your language, right? In your repertoire. as you know, as a guitar player, like if you're running a solo, sometimes it's just like, where does the hand go? These are the notes I can reach. And you don't really want that with composition. You want to be free. You want to have like a blank canvas. So it's write a melody and harmonize it, and then all the other stuff can go around it. So you're not restricted at all. It's like the melody has to be free to be the best melody. Like a singer who's singing a top line would just sing the top line. They're not limited by a box, you know? So try not to be limited by the box. That's another reason why playing in different tunings is so cool. Because suddenly it's just like you're no longer limited by, this is the minor pentatonic shape, let me write something in this. It's just like anything goes. And that's so super, super fun.
But I think people will get a lot out of just, you know, knowing how to put it together. And of course, Mike, you've got a guitar course and actually showing people how to do this in an understandable way and a slow way. And I'll put all the links in the description below so people can find those.
Actually, like literally, like as you mentioned that, I just released, not to go super like markety on you guys, but like I just released a beginner course of this stuff with True Fire, which like explains it all in a super basic way. I think you're the first person that I've talked to since I've released this, so that's why I thought I'd mention it.
That's an exclusive.
Exclusive, exactly, yeah.
But yeah, it's great to have everything explained. And I think a lot of people, when they start to learn the guitar, they don't realise how much you have to practice to make it subconscious so that you can start now focusing on other things other than the technique you're working on.
Exactly. It's like, you know, I sometimes get jealous of like piano players because, and maybe it's the same with the flute, because piano players can just do this, bing, and there's a sound.
No, it is not
like
the
a
same.
child.
That is not the
like
same.
a cat can just walk on a piano and it'll all sound good. But with like the flute, and I've tried to play the flute, that's like work to get a sound.
Get one note.
Exactly. And it's the same with the guitar. You have to like press down and be in pain and do this and synchronize. And so like I think to get anywhere with flute or guitar, and violin is another one, like stringed instruments that require this two-handed technique, you know, or most instruments, I suppose, except for maybe percussion and piano. That it requires a certain amount of commitment, you know, and dedication, and that just shows that you're interested in it. And especially if you're young and starting as a child, maybe you want to learn something on impulse. It's much easier to filter out the people who are just doing it casually if you're giving them an instrument like the guitar or the flute, you know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like, bing! Yeah, music's boring now. Next, you know.
Yeah, the shock on a like student's face when I tell them, you should sit on this note for a really long time and just keep playing it until like just get that tone quality and like and first get that tone quality that you want in your head so you know what you want to sound like, so you know what you're trying to go for, and then do that for 20 years. Every day. And, yeah.
Just touching on it very briefly, Mike, we'll start with you. How did you find your direction artistically, the way that you played on the guitar? Was it kind of a natural thing or something that sparked your interest when you first started playing?
Yeah, well, I guess the way that I play guitar that I'm known for is, like you say, like all trying to do all the different parts, you know, live and all of that. And a lot of that came from, honestly, just like living in a small town where there weren't really that many other musicians to play with. So even to this day, one of my biggest shortcomings as a musician is I'm not the best. Well, I want to get better at playing and jamming with other people. Because my entire upbringing was, you know, okay, well, you know, I play in bands with my mates. I was in metal bands at school, you know, playing Iron Maiden covers and stuff like that. But to get out of that town, I wanted to kind of take more control. So in order to do open mic nights, which, you know, we know in the UK, all the pubs and stuff, I needed to just do something by myself, and I couldn't sing because I'm just not a very good singer, or at least I lack the confidence. So trying to do all the parts was just a medium to get out there and be able to perform, because I love performing so much without any other human baggage, right? Not that I'm calling my old bandmates human baggage, that's not what I mean at all, but just being able to having the freedom to go out and do a show alone was something that was really important. And then the specific world of fingerstyle guitar opened up to me through various means. There was Andy McKee blowing up on YouTube at the time. There was Michael Hedges. There was my godfather designed the music books for a French guitarist named Pierre Bensusan. So I would get those as like birthday and Christmas presents. So it was like I was kind of hybriding like Iron Maiden with, weird, fingerstyle guitar music, and then that kind of combined, and then the Justin Hayward Moody Blues thing kind of came in, and I've been kind of working with Justin for like 9 years, maybe, for like a couple of tours a year.
I think some of the best advice I've ever been given in my career was somebody who owned a rehearsal studio when I used to rehearse many, many years ago with my first band and then second band. And I was looking for advice, how to advance, like what can I do? And he said, whatever idea you have, whatever direction you want to go in, don't leave it as an idea, just do it and see what happens. And if, that doesn't work, move on to your next idea and do it. Because I think a lot of people get stuck in the position of, like you say, having lots of ideas and thinking, oh, I might try and do that. But they don't actually do it, because you only know if it's going to work or if it is something that you want to pursue if you do it and then think, oh yeah, this is what I'm enjoying doing, and then you're kind of on the road.
A good thought exercise for that is, think about like your favorite bands. Well, your favorite bands are the only bands that sound like that.
I think a lot of people are, people pleasers, or they think, how do I have to be most popular, or sell the most albums or whatever.
Well, this is where like record labels, and I'm going down like a little rabbit hole now, but like the industry kind of sucks, because there'll be things like, this has worked in the past, so please be more like this. Mm-hmm. And that's like the absolute opposite of what you should be doing. You should be like finding the quirky things that make you and just doing that, because there's only one of you, and that's exactly where people will come to find it. Mm-hmm. There's only one right now there's only one freaking rock and roll shred flute player that I know of, and that's this lady.
Well, you're talking about the exact thing about like being a flute player and wondering about, are people gonna like flute in rock and roll? Like, you kind of gotta throw that away and just play, and I hope that people like it. But if you worry too much and try to people please, then everything gets put into a small box, and you don't explore all the things that it could be.
What about your story? Like, I mean, how old were you when you started playing flute, and who inspired you? Was it just something that you picked up, or was there a particular artist that you looked up to?
Yeah, definitely. I started flute because my mom, she had a flute in the closet when from the time I was born. She bought it at a garage sale. And during her hippie days, and she had bought a guitar and a flute, and so I was like looking at that thing, and then sixth grade came around, and I was like, I want to be in the band, and so she's like, well, you can play the flute. That's what I've got. So at that point, I got to use the flute, and yeah, I was into it, but then I kind of went different directions, thinking like, oh, maybe this flute doesn't, I don't know, there's something it doesn't do for me. But I stuck with it, and I kept thinking like, oh, maybe I want to be a saxophone player, maybe I want to be a drummer, maybe I want to be something else. Like, I've always wanted to play like kind of loud and powerful. And you think of the flute is not exactly that. And I don't get to play in rock bands.
It is loud.
And
it is loud.
It's much louder than people think, actually. I was taking lessons, and my teacher at the time gave me a cassette tape. I think I'm dating myself, but of this woman, Carol Winston's, and I was listening to her sound on the flute, and I said, if the flute can sound like that, I'm in. And that just like changed everything. She had this darker, deeper, richer sound. It was more powerful, and yet like it's a flute playing that. And to me, that was just like, it began this quest of at that point, like, how can I kind of sound like her? And then over the years, it became, how can I sound like, I have this, that developed a sound in my head that I want to sound like, that changed over the years as I heard more possibilities of what a flute can sound like, and I wanted to take like elements of this and that, and then put it into my own sound.
Well, I don't want to kind of keep you all day because we have been speaking for a while, but, you know, I really appreciate being able to talk to you today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And I mean, good luck with the tour and the future tours and everything, you know, musically in your careers to come.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you.
We'll keep in touch. Thanks, Phil.
See you later.
Take
Cheers.
care.
Bye. So a massive thank you to Mike and Carmen for joining me tonight. If you guys want to check out Mike's YouTube channel, Carmen's YouTube channel, Mike's guitar course, all of these things, the links will be in the description below, so you can click on those. And why not check out some of the dates for Justin Hayward's tour, because that will be going through to the 23rd of September of this month if you are in the UK. But thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to make sure that you get notified for every video on the channel, because there will be ones like this now and again that pop up when I have an opportunity to speak with other musicians. But thank you guys again. I hope that you did enjoy this, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!